Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. We thank God for allowing us to see another beautiful Monday. We thank Him for just waking us up this morning. Welcome to the Dr. Nabs Show. I am your host, Dr. Nabs, better known as Apostle Purdue Nabs. I know some of you are wondering about this title, God versus Man. I was sitting here and I was just pondering, like saying, what can I teach on today? What can we discuss today? And the thought just came to my mind. And it sounds like a crazy title, but in actuality it's true. God versus man. Man is so busy seeking the approval of man until they have forgot to seek the approval of God. And back in the old days, and I'm going to say something about the old churches. The old churches, the old folks used to say a lot of different things, and they might not came out with the right way that they said it, but they knew what they were talking about. And I used to always remember, when people said that God told them to say something, I remember the old mothers of the church and even the old fathers would say, "Are you sure that God told you to do this?" And you have a lot of people nowadays that telling people, "Oh, you forget about all that. You got to do what God tell you to do." But in looking at a lot of different things now, even myself is beginning to see a lot of mistakes, a lot of people that have been sent out on the limb because they were so busy seeking the approval of man. And I just want to share my testimony because you all know anything that I do, I'm real in what I do. And sometimes it's best to listen. I'm just going to tell you like it is. I'm going to share a story with you all, and this is a truth. This is my testimony of what the things that I went through. When I lived in Virginia, I belonged to a good church. Well, they didn't believe in women preachers, so they sent me to another church. Well, I dealt with that until the pastor got caught committing adultery. And I've never experienced nothing like that. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I've never experienced nothing like that. It was the right what in the world. So I joined with my mother's, well, before I joined my mama's in church, I seen a lot of different things, but I never did, At the time, I was seeking, and I really wanted to get closer to God, and I did anything that I possibly could to do that. Well, when the Lord told us to move to Florida, the Lord has said Orlando, but you all hear me talk about my ex-husband a lot, so his name is Bruce. Bruce said, "I really don't want to move into Orlando." He said, "Because we got the children and it's too much going on. Let's move to the Space Coast." He said, "I'll be close." He said, I want to get a job at NASA. Well, I didn't have no problems with that. But where he moved us to, and him and I talk about this now, that's when all hell broke loose. I'm just going to keep it real for y'all. We joined this church. I would go back and forth to Orlando to Pastor Benny Hinn's church. And it was getting to the place that it was really hard on me. So I said, okay. So I got joined up with this church. And then that's when my nightmares started. This pastor, he believed in women preachers, but he was the type of man, he was not going to let you go over topping him. And at the time, my mother, she was a mother of the church. And people used to, people used to come to her, you should be sitting up there when your daughter is. I mean, it kept a lot of confusion between my mother and I. And it got to the place that I really didn't know who I was. I'm just being honest with y'all. I really didn't know who I was. And I had to act a certain way around the preachers. I had to act a certain way. And people that know me, I'm just a down-to-earth person. I do walk in authority because I got that from my dad. I walk with my head up high and everything. But if you really get to know me, I'm just as humble as I can be. And one day my mother, and I knew it wasn't of God, but one day my mother told me, she said, you act like you're better than I am. I'm like saying, ma'am, what are you talking about? So I had to go to work. And I'm just going to tell you how people are. I had to go to work. And when you get validations from men, oh, the pastor, Evangelist Purdue, you this and you that and everything, and blah 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 this and blah 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 that, and all this type of stuff. Well, when came time for the ordination, they had sit there and pumped my mother's head up so high. Oh my God, it was something. I had went to work that day because I worked in a nursing profession. And I got home. My mother, she went to church. She had a nice white dress on and everything. And when I came home, I was really excited for my mother. I said, hey, how did it go? She said, I didn't get my license. I said, what you mean you didn't get your license? She said, I didn't get my license. I said, what are you talking about? And she said, they call all the mothers except for me. So I had different ones coming over to the house, telling my mother, just be encouraged, God is going to bring you through and all this type of stuff. Well, I had to go to a more Cirillo conference because I had enough of it. I'm just being honest with y'all. I had enough of it because they were so busy pumping my mama's head up and trying to belittle me. And instead of my mother just, like letting things go, my mother, she always fussed at me about things. And it's like, I'm not doing anything. Well, when Daddy Cirillo came to Orlando, I went to the convention. And that's when my ministry started. And my first church was Hosanna Christian Center. And that's when I started dealing with the international waters. I had a church in London. And this when God really started blessing me. Then it's like all these people kept getting attracted to me. I couldn't understand what it was. And I'm like, so what is it? Oh, we can do this for you. We can do that for you. And I know this one ministry I joined, they you know, they said, we know that God has called you to be a doctor, and we're going to do this and all. And I said, okay, you know, I really didn't have no problems with it. And they you know, people, I mean, it was a mess. I'm not going to lie to y'all. It was a mess. And I would cry. I would cry and I would say, God, what is it? What is it, God? What is it? And my children will always tell me, they said, Mama, you want these people to validate you, and they're using you. And I'm like, saying, no, 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 no. They really like me. Not knowing that half of them were crooks themselves. And looking back now, this is why I named this title, God versus Man. Looking back now, I was looking for man to validate me. Oh, you're a great preacher. You this and you that and yada yada this and yada yada that. But all the same time, what they were doing, they was running game on me, and I did not see it. I did not see it. They were running game on me, and it was like, oh my God, you know, I mean, my family, we will always be blessed, and it wasn't enough for me to give my church $2,000 in tithes. I mean, God, we were being blessed. At least I thought we were, but not knowing that it was game that was being run on me. Excuse me, would you cool down till I finish this? My dog's trying to tell me he's ready to go outside and I got to finish the show. Calm down. So, you know, it was like, what in the world? Well, this is when it hit me. Through Bible teaching and studying God's Word, we want God's approval. You don't want man's approval. Man will tear you apart. When I tell you of the mentalness, what I went through when I came to Florida, I went through when I tell you pure hell, I went through pure hell. And even now, Bruce and I, we kind of talk about it. He said, man, we done been through some crazy mess since we've been here. And he's telling the truth. I mean, it was like, oh my God, what in the world? And what it was, instead of us really seeking God's face, we ran on, because he was the man and he was the head of the house. He wanted to provide for his family and ended up running into a nutshell. Now, only one good thing came out of this. He do work for NASA, and that's good. But the mentalness that we went through was out of this world. Churches nowadays have gotten so caught up in their foolishness until, give a good example, and I'm being honest with you. I know I might get in trouble with this, and if so, please forgive me, but it's just how I am. I'm not with all these archbishops that are running around through here. I'm just going to keep it real with you, because we're not Catholics. We are not Catholics. Maybe some are. Now, I take it back. Maybe some are. But all of this Catholic stuff that's running around in the churches, getting validation from man, getting approval from man, but not getting approval for God. Even down to the preaching in the churches. Now looking back, it's like, and I never could understand what my former apostle used to say, but now I do. He said, I never did go to conventions. He said, because you got preachers that are trying to out-preach one another. And I used to laugh at that because I never was used to it. But now looking back, and it's something that God is teaching me. You can preach till you can't preach no more. You can have a big ministry. You can have all of this. But do you have the approval of God? Do you have God's approval? And you look at this, because let me share something with you. And it's the truth. A lot of preachers, when they get on TV, especially with TBN, I remember when I was trying to bring the female pastors ministry out. And I called TBN, and I was, talking to them about